project was talking with someone that was working in the wrap materials area, where they actually developed Glad press and seal food wrap. And they were talking about their work and had no real objective. But the chemist that was working on it said, "Hey, have you ever tried to contain chemistry in those little dimples in this plastic?" And they were like, "No, it wouldn't work if we were to try that." And he was like, "Well, could it contain this chemistry?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, we could try." So he literally gets up from the cafeteria. This is in the evening. Runs back to the lab. He made this stuff into a paste, pasted, kind of spread it all over the food wrap. Goes and cuts it out into little strips and puts it on his teeth. And he goes back to Matt Doyle, and the way he describes it is that this chemist runs back with this Glad wrap with with chemicals on his teeth, like saying, "I figured it out. Look." And he
I figured
I figured it out. But he shakes him, he shakes him on the arms, and he's like, "I can't even tell what you're talking about." He's like, "Yes, exactly. You can't even see that it's working, and it's working." And that was the birth. That was the moment that Crest White Strips became a thing. But the thing that really inspires me with that story, and why I always start out with it, is because there's so much personal story in that one experience. And if you're thinking about how you would like to use stories, and what that type of story does is that it invites an organization, people within an organization, to say, "Hey, this is the type of behavior that we would love to see more of. We want to see more of these serendipitous discoveries occur. We would like to see people putting their work together in different ways. Let's have more incidences like this." And then people hear that, and they basically get invited into that experience. And so that, to me, that's a story. Like, to me, that personal experience is a story, and he puts it within this framework of challenge, action, results.
Yeah. It's a great story. It reminds me of the story of the Post-its. I guess that you know it.
Yeah.
The Post-it story. It's very similar. You know that story?
I've heard a couple versions of it, so let's hear what you have. Go
That's
ahead.
what I know. That there was a guy who they invented glue in 3M.
Yep.
And it didn't work. So the glue was not good. So it was not good enough. Yep. And when you stick it, the paper would fall. So it was not strong enough. Yep. And one guy would use it in his choir when he sang in church, and he wanted to place the papers like as bookmarks. And he placed these papers, and it was good for that because it was not too sticky from paper to paper. And he used it, and then they found out that it's a good idea to use it this way, just to make it not sticky, that you could take it off and place it again, and it will not ruin the surface of the paper. So that's what I heard.
Yes, I've heard that same story. And that's absolutely. What's interesting about that story is that it's also a story of strategic latency. And when we think about innovation, we had a great conversation with Zach Davis from Lawrence Livermore National Lab. He works more in national security, but he's written a couple of books now on strategic latency, which is that, try to get this right, that the impacts of an innovation are not felt truly until years down the road, until something has an opportunity to find what is going to be its real story. And there's lots of examples like that you can get with plastics. Plastics were the next big thing, and now the narrative of plastics is that it's killing everything on Earth.
Yeah.
But that's a great strategic latency story. Is like, it was a failure until it became this huge success, and it wasn't until you found the right application to really bring that material to fruition, bring it out into the world. That's such a great story.
Yeah. So we have a question from a user on LinkedIn. Okay. There is a saying, "Those who tell the stories rule the world." What's your opinion on that?
That's such a good one. I mean, what I will say is that we are all storytellers at heart. So we all, we are all telling of stories. What I will say is that the winners tell the stories that rule the world. Unfortunately, is that there is, you know, whoever is able to, you know, if we think of like history, history is a narrative that's written by the winners, and it's not, you know, in many instances, it is not true, or it's only half truths. So yes, those who tell the stories that endure are the ones that rule the world. It's really funny to think about the hero's journey. And I've been doing a lot of digging into the hero's journey because the hero's journey is based a lot in history. There's a lot of examples from, you know, years in your past where the story that prevails, the ones that you hear are the ones of the heroes, and those are the ones that are the success stories. And the stories that don't actually make it all the way through are the failure narratives. But what's most important is that the heroes' stories, the ones that are of success, are really important for kind of being this symbol of like what a culture is. Because a lot of times when you go to the hero's journey, it's about tribes and cultures and, you know, groups from a long time ago. But what actually makes cultures, like unifies them, is actually out of those failure narratives. And so what Joseph Campbell talks about is that, you know, you have these stories